They didn't even mention my name in the will. After I drained my entire savings to stop the bank from taking their house. I didn't cry when I found out. I laughed. Because it finally made sense. Why they always favored my sister. Why they never said thank you, and why my sacrifices never mattered. They took my money, my time, my life, and handed everything to someone who never even paid her own rent. Before we go deeper, subscribe, like, and share if you've ever been the forgotten one in your own family. This story will hit hard. Now, let's get into it. I was 28 when I moved back in with my parents in upstate New York. My dad had heart issues. My mom was barely holding it together, and their mortgage was 3 months behind. My younger sister Madison was busy finding herself in LA, which really meant doing yoga, blowing through Dad's credit card, and calling once a month for money. They were about to lose the house. Mom cried. Dad looked broken. So I did what any decent daughter would. I wired $60,000 from my emergency fund, everything I had, and saved the house. No conditions, no contract. Just trust. Thank you, Aria. We'll make this right someday, Mom had said, hugging me tight. That someday turned out to be 2 years later, in a cold lawyer's office, where my name wasn't even listed in the will. Everything, the house, the savings, the land Dad inherited from Grandpa was left to Madison, the girl who once faked being sick to skip our grandma's funeral. I stared at the lawyer in disbelief. He looked uncomfortable. My hands were shaking, but I kept quiet. My parents didn't even look at me. Dad was pretending to read some paperwork, and Mom was texting Madison. I waited until we were back in the car before I said anything. Was this some kind of mistake? I asked, my voice cracking. Mom didn't flinch. You've always been independent, Aria. Madison needs more support. More support? From me? I'd already paid off their debts, managed their appointments, and practically became their caregiver, while Madison lived in an apartment I was too tired to afford. I didn't say another word. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stopped. Stopped picking up their calls. I stopped sending grocery money. I stopped checking in on their bills. I stopped being their emotional crutch. Weeks passed, then months. Madison posted pictures from Dubai. Dad ended up back in the hospital after ignoring his checkups. Mom called me crying when the power got shut off for 2 days. And then, one afternoon, she showed up at my apartment, unannounced. She looked thin, exhausted, but her words hit harder than anything I'd expected. Aria, we need your help again, just for a little while. Maybe you could loan us a little more? That's when I realized they still saw me as the backup plan, the safety net, the fool who always says yes. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, You left me out of your future. Don't expect me to save your present. But I had no idea what was about to happen next. Mom's face twisted like I'd just slapped her. She stood there frozen, mouth slightly open, still holding the Tupperware container she'd brought. Like offering me leftover casserole could erase everything. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I let the silence speak. Finally, she broke. Aria, this isn't like you. You've always been the responsible one. You're better than this. And there it was, the same emotional trap I'd been falling into since I was a teenager. Disguising guilt as a compliment, calling sacrifice a virtue. I stepped aside and motioned to the door. Exactly. I'm better than this. She left without saying goodbye. The next day, it began. First, Madison posted a passive-aggressive story on Instagram, something about fake family, and some people only help when it's convenient. The caption, a broken heart emoji and my name tagged at the bottom. Then, my aunt called. Aria, I heard you're abandoning your parents in their time of need. What's gotten into you? abandoning. I was the one who canceled vacations, skipped birthdays, and burned through my youth trying to hold everyone together. Now that I finally said no, I was suddenly heartless. But it didn't stop there. A week later, my manager at work called me in. Apparently, my mom had shown up to my office crying, asking for help to talk some sense into her daughter. My coworkers saw everything. I was humiliated. That night, I sat alone in my apartment with the lights off and one thought circling. My mind? Was I wrong? Was I really being selfish? Then I remembered something I hadn't told anyone. The $60,000 I gave them? It wasn't just my savings. It was supposed to be the down payment on my dream art studio, a place I'd planned for years, sketched out designs, even met with a realtor. I gave it all up to save their house. And now they were parading around, acting like I was the villain. But that pain, it sparked something. I reopened my sketchpad that night for the first time in 2 years. It felt foreign, like picking up a language I'd forgotten. I didn't sleep. I designed for hours. The next day I made a call. Not to Mom, not to Madison, to a local property manager who'd once offered me a cheap warehouse space. Nothing fancy, but big enough to start something. I told him I was in. I didn't have the money. Not yet. But I had talent. I had drive. And for the first time in years, I had freedom. Weeks turned into months. I worked double shifts, took commissions, sold designs online. I built that studio from dust, one brush stroke at a time. No help, no handouts. Just me. And while I was rising quietly, my family was sinking. Madison's boyfriend left her. My parents got hit with overdue taxes. Their perfect plan was cracking, and that's when they made their next move. They invited me to a family gathering, a reunion, they said. Just dinner, casual, come as you are. Something in my gut told me this wasn't just a dinner, it was a setup. I arrived anyway, and what they did there changed everything. The moment I walked in, I felt it. Eyes, sharp as knives slicing through me. The entire extended family was there, sipping wine and laughing like I was invisible. Madison strutted over first, her smile dripping with fake sweetness. "Oh, Aria, finally gracing us with your presence," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Did you forget your family now?" Laughter bubbled around the room. My cheeks burned. Then Mom swooped in, draping an arm around Madison. "You know, Aria used to do so much for us. But now she's different." Different? Because I refused to be a doormat? Before I could respond, Dad cleared his throat, holding up a thick envelope. "I want to make this clear. This family's future belongs to Madison. She's the one who's here for us." Everyone nodded, except me. I felt like screaming, but instead I smiled, a cold, quiet smile. Then I did the one thing nobody expected. I pulled out a sleek folder from my bag and set it on the table. "This," I said, voice steady, "is the contract for my new art studio, fully funded, fully operational, with clients already lined up. That $60,000 wasn't lost. It was an investment. And I didn't just save the house, I saved my future." The room froze. Madison's eyes widened. Mom's smile faltered. Dad's hands trembled slightly as he reached for the papers. "You... what?" Mom whispered. I opened the folder, revealing bank statements, signed leases, and glowing client testimonials. "I'm not just the daughter who paid the bills anymore," I said, locking eyes with each of them. "I'm the one building something real, something that lasts." A cousin leaned in and whispered, "Who knew she was the real success story?" Madison stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Mom stood silently, then muttered, "We might need your help after all." But this time I wasn't listening, because for the first time, I was the one holding the power. and the story was just beginning. After that night, everything shifted, but not how my family expected. Mom called me the next morning. Her voice was shaky, almost breaking. "Aria, can we talk? I think we've made some mistakes." I didn't answer. Instead, I focused on the studio. My little dream was finally real. Clients booking commissions, local galleries asking for shows. Every brushstroke was a silent victory over years of being ignored and used. But my family wasn't ready to let go. Madison started spreading rumors at work, trying to paint me as selfish and ungrateful. Even a few friends believed her. One afternoon, I received an anonymous package. Inside, a photo of Mom and Dad signing a second will, one that explicitly excluded me again. It was like a punch to the gut. Yet the fire inside me only grew stronger. I confronted Mom during one of her rare visits. "Why keep cutting me out? Why do I have to fight for a place in my own family?" She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "It's complicated, Aria. You've always been the responsible one, but Madison, she needs more." I shook my head. "I gave you everything. I lost my dreams for you. And you erased me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much you sacrificed." But sorry wasn't enough anymore. I realized that to truly be free, I had to step away completely. So I sold my childhood home, yes, the one I saved, and moved into a loft near the city. A fresh start with no ties to a family that never wanted me. Now, every day I wake up to my art, my studio, and my own choices. No more guilt, no more betrayal. And when they call, begging for help, I finally have the strength to say what I couldn't before. I'm done saving a family that doesn't save me. But the biggest shock? When I get a call from a big-name gallery, interested in featuring my work worldwide. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge is not revenge at all. It's rising above it. And this time, I'm flying higher than they ever dreamed. Months passed, and with every success, the calls and messages from my family stopped, except for one unexpected message from Madison. It wasn't a plea or apology. It was a challenge. She sent a photo of herself in front of a fancy car, captioned, "Living the life you never believed I could." I stared at it, the sting sharper than I expected. For years, she had been the spoiled child, relying on handouts, while I worked silently behind the scenes. But I didn't reply. Instead, I let my work speak louder. Then came the day of the gallery opening, a night I never imagined would come. The space was filled with my paintings, my story, my truth. People I didn't even know told me how inspired they were by the woman who fought back against betrayal and rose from nothing. In the crowd, I spotted a familiar face. Mom. Her eyes were filled with regret, but also pride. She approached quietly, not demanding, just watching. I realized then that my journey wasn't just about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I mattered, that I deserved respect, love, and a future I could call my own. And as the night ended with applause and offers, I whispered to myself, I am no longer the girl who saved a house. I am the woman who built her own empire, and this time they couldn't ignore me, even if they wanted to. The past was gone. The future, mine to create.